Hi, it's Jon Ray. First off, thank you for letting me read my book to you. I'm so appreciative of your support and time. Second, and then I'll get into the book, at the time of this recording, I'm still seeking out a publisher that feels like a good fit for me. If you're a literary agent or a publisher or just someone that knows about that world and resonate with anything in this book, I'd love to hear from you. You can find my contact information in the notes to this audio or at awesomeintuition.com. Thank you all so much. Let's begin. God. What is God, and why are there so many opinions about the concept of God? The idea or concept that you would call God is a man-made idea. For in some of your earliest civilizations on planet Earth, there was no concept of God as being something separate. There was an understanding that everything is God. There was no need to give it a name or personality. Rather, there was just an acceptance and an appreciation of the self, yourself as God, as the idea of infinite consciousness, which existed in everything. In early civilizations, the idea of God was felt more than intellectually discussed. As society progressed, as the idea of conquest became more and more prevalent, as certain entities expressed themselves by expressing their power over others, as the idea of mind control or of population control came to be, then the idea of God took on more of an intellectual meaning in that it became a construct used for controlling certain aspects of the population. Now, this is not true in every religion, and certainly it is not the heart of every religion. But what we wish to say about God is that as most people understand it from the religious texts they are familiar with or might have grown up with, God is the separation. For in seeing God outside of yourself, you're making yourself separate from the conscious energy, the all-being love that is absolute thought, that is creative source, that is all that is. Once you realize that the idea of God, the idea of absolute thought, is truly that everything exists within you, then you realize that you're a piece of God, a piece of the whole. This is the Namaste. The God in me honors the God in you. When you know this, then you will know the true meaning of what God is. You are in an entanglement, a consciousness meld with everything you perceive. God is the accumulative collection of all consciousness everywhere. As you grow your awareness and the vantage point from which you perceive, you begin to experience as God. Why did we need to create a God of separation? How did it serve us? As a planet of free will, it is always your choice to think and decide whatever you wish to decide around any subject matter. The concept of God has evolved and changed and continues to do so today. Early on your planet, there was a natural bias towards living intuitively, towards understanding that you knew what you needed to know when you needed to know it. As people began to identify more with their intellect, with their ego personality, as opposed to their infinite knowing, there became a desire within some to intellectualize the concept of God, to intellectualize where these thoughts they were receiving were coming from. Just as this book is being brought through as inspired thought, many others had inspired thought. But inspired thought always works within the limitations of the intellectual filters of the person translating the thought. Interpretation is subjective. As many people had many ideas about what God was, those who wished to have power over others created a concept of God that would allow for them to more easily control a population. This led to the commonly used interpretation of sin, the idea that you are separate from God, the idea that you are not worthy. All these were mental constructs baked into the idea of God so that people would be easier to control. For it is much easier for someone to influence you, for someone to tell you what to do, and for you to accept what they say as fact, as reality, if you do not feel empowered. If there are those of you who feel unworthy because of your concept of God, know that this was the intention and the basis for certain religions. However, most religions do showcase that it is your relationship with the idea of God that is important. In a way, they do teach intuitive thought. They do teach for you to shed filters and allow something to flow through you that will then inspire your thoughts. The more that you truly grasp the message of love and put your focus on those loving ideas presented by the master avatars in any of your religious texts, rather than man's interpretation of them, the more that you will begin to resonate with their frequency. Their frequency being one of allowing, one of love, one of compassion. These are the true messages of spirit. The more that you resonate with the frequency of unconditional love, the more you will be able to come to your own understanding, not only of any religious text, but of everything that you perceive. You're all sons of the Most High. Can a person come to God through a religion that is present today? Absolutely, it happens all the time. For many have practiced frequency regarding a certain religion, or have many concurrent lifetime connections where they have been a part of a certain religion. If you choose to experience God through a religion, then absolutely you can have a divine experience no matter what religion you choose. You can have a divine experience with or without religion. It is your choice. God is in everything. You could be an atheist and have a divine experience, for truly each of you is God experiencing itself. Once you begin to sit with yourself and listen for your intuition, you begin having a divine experience of yourself. There's no judgment on any action that anyone would take. All action is being drawn to match the vibration that each person is offering. Whether you're the perpetrator or the victim, you are a vibrational match to each other, and so you have drawn a certain experience to you through the infinite divine nature, the infinite divine system that pulls congruent energy together. Anytime you are offering a vibration, you will draw to you the experiences that are relevant to that vibration, that are relevant to push you in the direction that you wish to go. It is impossible to experience anything that you are not the creator of. Many will use religion as a stepping stone to a greater understanding, and it is certainly valid, for religions most often are based in concepts and ideas and stories of master avatars who have gone through some kind of an enlightened experience. If you use that master as your point of focus, if you hold the frequency of their enlightenment, then you will find that inspired thought comes to you, and you will find your own enlightenment by resonating with their energy. However, from our perspective, there is no right or wrong religion, no right or wrong way to seek God. All paths are all valid, for they are all merely mental constructs that tune you to a certain frequency of intuitive thought. Any attempt to know the divine is honored. I had an experience in a church, and I don't particularly consider myself of any religious grounding or chosen religion, but I experienced the feeling of God in a chapel because of the energy of the people that go there, and the prayer that was given there, and because people go there to call on God. I felt the energy. It felt heightened. It felt spiritual to me because it was a marked place. It was a consecrated place where hundreds and hundreds of people have trod and called on the name of God, and I felt an experience of upliftment in a chapel in a church. You can walk into many holy buildings and feel the energy of them. However, know that those buildings and people are not calling in the energy of God from some other place and then having it exist within the temple temporarily. Merely those that would gather in prayer bring themselves to a place of focus in a chapel or in a sanctuary and use the building as a focal point to release resistance and remember their connection to God. That kind of remembrance and pouring forth of love creates a vortex of energy that continues to spin and draw like energy to it. That is what you are feeling, the residual energy of their tapping into their own intuitive knowing and the guiding principle of the universe, love. When groups of people gather for any focused intention, a certain energy is set in motion. When the intention is to bring in the divine, then it becomes something that can be easily experienced within the body as sensation. This happens no matter what the religion. Your metaphysics are not so different than, say, a religion like Christianity, for you show up to a building, you set a collective intention, and then you expect to feel the inspiration of the intention you have set forth. All you are doing in either scenario is using a certain mental construct of the idea of your connection to everything to release your own resistance and then experience your own divinity, which feels joyous and lovely and uplifting. Every belief system is valid and invalid at the same time. The cookie dough of God will fill whatever cookie cutter you hold out for it. Can we talk to God? You are God, and so is everyone you meet. So anytime you have a conversation with yourself or another, you are speaking directly to God. You must learn to shed the filters of your physical mind, though, to receive a clear reception. Does God have a personality? The idea of God is the collection of all consciousness, of all thought. We would say that a clearer term for God might be absolute thought, for it is the collection of all conscious thought that has ever been cast into the universe, all energy. The idea of God encompasses all personality, and so God can be whatever you need God to be, which is why there is so much confusion over which God is the true God. They are all true. God can take on whatever personality you need God to take on. You see this when people say, I am talking to a certain angel. I am talking directly to God. I am talking to a certain master. Each of these is merely a frequency anchor that draws to you the energy of your own divinity through a certain framework that you can believe gives you access to the energy of God or universal intelligence. They are all valid ways to interpret God. God is and isn't a person. It can be experienced by you as a person, but it would be impossible to shove infinity into one personality, which is why there are billions and billions of personalities for you to know God through. You know God by finding Him in everything and everyone you look at. That is the only way to truly know the infinitude of God. Many of us are wanting an outer experience. Even this idea of channeling a message is an idea that there's something separate coming through. Many of us want to experience a divine message from an outer place that we may be inspired in a certain way. Are you saying that there is a way that we can simply trust our own voice? Trust the inspiration we receive as our own? You might note once again that you are the creator of your reality. Everything exists within your consciousness. Whether you're having a conversation with yourself or with someone outside of you, it is all you. You have created the entire experience so that you can better understand your eternal nature. We are not necessarily saying that you must find the God within, for it is perfectly valid to understand God as something outside of you, because ultimately the outside is the inside. What we see as we look at your planet's current frequency is those who are seeking to have a relationship with the idea of God and are looking to find their own empowerment through the construct of God. If that is the ultimate desire, to find your own personal empowerment, then it would serve you to look for it within yourself. Anything that you are seeing outside of you that you feel is oppressive against you is a prison of your own making. It is created by you. Oftentimes, when someone sees enough oppression outside of them, when someone sees enough discouragement outside of them, they are forced to look within, for they see nothing that they like without. Once they find peace within, they begin to see the external world, as they perceive it, take on a light that they never noticed before. For truly, anytime you are perceiving anything, you are seeing it from only one vantage point, and there are an infinite number of vantage points to view anything and everything. How do entities in other realms or on other planets view God? Many know themselves to be God, to be a piece of God. They understand that God is the consciousness meld of all that is, and that they are merely God experiencing in a certain way. In a way, it is as though God split itself into an infinite number of pieces so that it could then dial into those pieces and see itself from an infinite number of perspectives. Do we ever meet God? The idea of meeting God assumes that God is some kind of a person or some sort of a personality. Because God is everything, then yes, you meet God in every moment. You are God. Everything that you touch around you is God, and so you're constantly having a relationship with God. This is something to think about the next time you become angry, frustrated, or disgusted with something or someone in your experience. If you're disgusted with anyone, you are disgusted with God. This is why an appreciation of everything without judgment is so prominent in so many religions. How can you judge anything when it is all God, the Creator, when everything and everyone is a piece of you? We believe what you are asking is, do you ever experience as the whole, as all that is? Well, that is not necessarily something that you can experience in your human form, for to have that much energy flowing through your physical body would literally disintegrate it as you turned into light. From your broader perspective, it is possible to meld in a certain way with all that is so that you can experience all as all. You can try on the mantle of spirit, and this would be you becoming congruent with absolute thought. I am that I am. Are you saying there is some advantage to the separation of all that is so that we can have this experience on Earth? The idea of coming to Earth, the way that the magnetics and the consciousness grid are designed to essentially erase any memory that you have of the wholeness of who you are, is for you to have the exhilaration of coming to the experience of your true self again, as if for the first time. For once you are lost and then found, it is a very exciting time. That is the idea behind the experiment of planet Earth. It's that you purposely lose yourself for the purpose of finding yourself. In the journey of finding yourself, you come to a better understanding of who you are as God. How does our relationship with God differ when we focus in the non-physical realms versus the physical realms? It is more of a knowing. You are able to more easily understand that you are everything and that you have access to everything. It is felt as infinite love and well-being. Love is a concept that you are able to identify with more from your broader perspective, for there are no filters about love. You simply understand that love is everything, and that love is the energy that is God. That love is within each of you. That love is the space between the nucleus and the electron in any atom, in any construct of space. Love is the infiniteness that connects all of us. It is the lattice of the universe that ties us all together. It is the entanglement between everything. Does God have an official message for humanity? When speaking to infinity and asking for a message, you will receive it. The message from God, from absolute thought, from infinity to mankind at this point in time is this. God exists within you, and God's message to you is personal. If you wish to have an understanding of your relationship with God, then simply say out loud, "Who are you, God, and who am I in relationship to you?" And then wait for the divine answer to unfold in your life. The intention is enough to bring about the manifestation. How are we meant to evangelize God to others? Are we meant to go out with this message and give it to everyone? You're meant to do anything that you wish to do. You're meant to live in exhilaration and excitement and joy. If you would do anything and find joy in doing it, then absolutely continue to do it. There is no mandate ever on what you should or should not be doing. The idea of evangelizing is typically that someone has come into a knowing and is so excited about that knowing that they wish to share it with others. But often, in the sharing with others, they draw a certain contrast to them, and that contrast can sometimes manifest experiences that one might consider counterproductive. True evangelization is not in the telling, but in the being. As any of the master avatars from any of the religions have alluded, be the light of the world. And that is the best way to evangelize anything. You lead with the clarity of your example. How does God see us as humans? How do you see your finger? How do you see your leg? You're all pieces of God, and so God sees you just as you see the pieces of your own body. Everything you perceive is your cosmic body. Is there a place called heaven or hell? There are certain frequencies of thought that you are capable of tuning to that would have the experience of what some of you might call heaven or hell, but they are certainly not the only place that someone can go, and certainly not a final resting place for all of eternity. There are infinite places and infinite ideas of the infinite, of non-physical, that one can experience. However, often, in your patterns of thought, when you re-emerge into source energy, when you re-emerge into your broader perspective of all that is, you will temporarily experience something that might be similar to what you have termed heaven or hell. For in that experience, you are living out a pattern of thought that you wished to understand better. Just as there are many different television stations that you can tune your television to, each with a different experience, so too are the non-physical realms. You decide what you wish your experience to be. There is no time or space, so you very well might be in a place you term hell for what feels like hundreds of thousands of years. Yet once you realize it is your own creation, you begin to understand that it was only a few seconds. One day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. The idea is that once you have acclimated to a certain idea of the afterlife, you might come to more clarity on a higher truth, which is that you are creating the experience that you're living. You can choose whatever you want in this life and any life after. Many people will go to a base level energy or low vibratory rate afterlife that to them looks and feels as they believe hell looks and feels. They are usually accompanied by some sort of a spiritual partner, a spiritual guide, someone from their soul group, a makeup of their own consciousness, who will, through the illusion of some place like a heaven or hell, showcase to them, oftentimes in very hilarious ways, that they are being silly, and that if they wish to experience something different, they merely need change their pattern of thinking, or their vibratory rate towards a particular subject. The ideas about heaven or hell, or any of the concepts you have of the afterlife, can be helpful in your learning process as you expand in consciousness as a way to make linear sense of a non-linear experience. However, nothing is finite. You create your experience in non-physical just as you do in this physical reality. It can look and feel like anything you wish to experience. Know that any experience that you have is of your own making. If you wish to have an experience of heaven or hell, then you may have it. If you believe so firmly in an idea such as hell, and in that idea of hell you find yourself feeling guilty and deserving of going there, then you will build that prison for yourself. The only true sin is to choose to live something that is in stark contrast with the belief system you currently hold about your reality. You know when you are not in alignment with your current belief system by the way that you feel. Your emotions are always your guide. Once you re-emerge into non-physical, there is no time, so you might experience hell for what seems like hundreds of thousands of years, but that is actually just a perpetuation or illusion of the one now moment. At any given point in experience, you may simply remove the walls of your own prison and choose something different. At this point in time, most people on the planet are experiencing an energy and a frequency that allows them to be congruent with certain ideas in a way that when they pass through and become source energy once again, it will be an exhilarating experience. For truly, even if you create a construct that represents your idea of hell, it is only temporary. Once you move through it and take the walls down, you will find it rather humorous that you chose to experience something like that. Heaven and hell are only as real as you decide they need to be. Do you have any other comments on the subject of God that you would like to share? God does not ever change. The idea of absolute thought, of all that is, of the infinite nature of everything, what you have termed God, never changes. It is your relationship to God, your perspective of God, that changes in every single moment. Your relationship with all that is can be whatever you prefer it to be. If you find joy in your current relationship with God, then by all means continue that pattern of thought. But recognize that it is merely a pattern of thought. Any belief is just a thought that you have thought in perpetuation to the point where you believed it to be so. If you wish to have a different experience of God, you may simply practice a different pattern of thought. If you practice it with the same intensity that you have practiced any other idea of God, then you will experience the divinity with the same fervor that you experienced it in a different pattern. You are God. You are seeds that become God. God is everything. You are everything. The consciousness that is you is a part of God, and the reality that you experience exists within your consciousness, your piece of God. In co-partnership with God, you create every experience. You, as the decider of your life, get to decide what that creative partnership with God looks like. If you wish to know God, simply look where you expect to find the divine. For some, they will look to the sky. For others, they will turn and look into their heart. Others might find God in nature, or even in their work. It sounds cliche, but looking for God where you think the divine lives will help you have an experience of God. Look to the clouds and say out loud, God, I wish to know who you are and what my personal relationship with you should look like. Then wait for answers to begin showing up in your life. Everything that appears to be outside of you actually exists within. It is not the spoon that bends, it is only yourself. You are God. The unfolding is merely remembering that these things are so.